Pastor G show. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Lindani Gumede, also known as Pastor G, and I love sharing some content, adding some value, and hopefully through this channel there's a few new things that you are going to learn. But today I actually want to talk about my time at Stellenbosch University, and so I'll be sharing a bit of how I got into Stellenbosch University, what I studied at Stellenbosch University, the classroom structure for especially the peeps who were focused on their master's degree within the theology faculty. Then I'll also be sharing on what was happening during my time at Stellenbosch University, and also would I recommend the school. So how did I get into Stellenbosch University? Yes, so I knew from high school that I had to study theology in grade 9. I knew that that I felt the Lord calling me to study theology and to be on a pulpit one day. I declined. I was a churchgoer and I had not given my life over to the Lord as yet. And I declined, and I was like, there's no ways that I'm going to be standing at a pulpit in the Methodist church preaching to people. There's no ways. Long story short, the following year I surrendered my life to the Lord. And then in grade 11, I was grappling with career, like what do I do? And I felt the need to study theology. I felt a pressing in my heart to study theology, and I was like, no. And then in matric, I finally gave in. I was like, okay, cool. The Lord wants me to do this, so I will do theology. So I studied theology. I did my first, second, and third year with SATS, the South African Theological Seminar. So I did my degree with them. Then I decided to do my honors with SATS, and in my honors I focused mostly on trauma and the trauma of homelessness. And we had experienced some church trauma, and so I actually wanted to understand, how do you help people who have experienced trauma, especially from a church point of view? And so when we moved to Cape Town, our church where I'm serving under now, actually helps a lot of people who are homeless. And so I wanted to study trauma, especially from the lens of the people who are homeless, the people at the shelter, and how do we as a church best serve them? And I learned so much through that study in my honors. And then I felt the need to that's when I began to do life coaching and seeing people and doing some counseling. And I realized that actually I don't have the right or enough tools, let me rather say, to help people. So I wanted to add to the toolkit to help people more in the counseling process. And during COVID times, when we were testing and checking out all these things with COVID and all of those things, there was something that I discovered, and I saw this label at one of the path care institutions called clinical psychologist, and I was like, wow, intrigued by this clinical terminology, and I was like, I really felt like it gripped me, and I wanted to do something within that space. But I was like, I don't know, maybe I'm gonna have to study psychology from the beginning, so I don't know if I'm ever gonna get to do something like that. So the following year, I felt I wanted to do my master's, and so I had a vast experience of youth ministry, and so I applied to do my master's, and I applied with the institution that was closest to us, which was Stellenbosch University, and is still Stellenbosch University. It's still closest to us, Stellenbosch University. And I applied to do my master's with them, and the first thing that I applied to do it with them was youth ministry, and my second option was clinical pastoral care. And I saw this clinical pastoral care, and honestly I really wanted to do a master's within that department. But I thought to myself, I have a vast experience when it comes to youth, so let me rather put that as my first option, because my CV will show mostly my experience with working with the youth. And then they got back to me and they declined me doing my master's in youth work, and I was hurt. I was hurt. I was really hurt. The rejection was bad. Was sad. I was sad. But I think a day or two or a week later, I got a call back from my professor, and he shared that they would love to let me be part of the interview panel for the clinical pastoral care program. And I was like, sign me up. I will do the interview. So did the interviews, and they were, just trying to find out more about me and what I studied. And I think the passion that I had for trauma was, I believe, one of the reasons why they took me into the master's program. Yes, I think academically I also did well, but I think the biggest thing was that I evidently showed that I was so interested in the study of trauma and wanting to help people in the counseling arena. And they were like, we'll choose you. And so I got chosen to do the program. So what is the program? What did I study? I studied clinical pastoral care. So this is a fusion of theology and psychology and clinical psychology, all mixed into one. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful course, but it's a very, very difficult course as well, because I've never really done psychology and the clinical side of psychology as well. So it was really quite a heavy, heavy, heavy course. But the framework we used is the dialogical intergenerational pastoral process. They call it DIP, the dialogical intergenerational pastoral process. I must talk slower. And so that is the framework. And so we looked at philosophers like Emmanuel Levinas, and we looked at family therapists like Basomeni Nudge. His name is very difficult, so I might not be saying it correctly, but his surname is Nudge, and some people call him Nagi, some people call him Nudge, but most of our course focused on his lessons and what we could learn from him when it comes to family therapy. And we also did a lot of theology as well, and studying scriptures together and studying, deeper theological studies that would help us even in the counseling aspect. And I also had the privilege of working at the hospital, working also with one of the organizations in Kayamandi as well, and then working in a hospital. And in the hospital, I worked with mostly clients or patients in the psych ward, and it was really, really so informative and so amazing to be able to help people to process a few things and to help them in their counseling space and to journey with them with the difficulties of life. And it was really, really quite impactful for me. And so I got the privilege to finish the studies and get a master's, and I have really enjoyed using the knowledge to do some counseling work within the church and to help people who might be in need of clinical care. So what was happening during my time at Stellenbosch University? During my time, there was the urination incident. Is it urination? Yes, it is urination. Yes. So I was just wondering if this word urination actually exists, but there was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Dodoi who urinated on Mr. Ndwayana's desk, computer desk, and on his laptop and his books, and Mr. Dodoi urinated on this gentleman's desk, and eventually Mr. Dodoi got expelled. Also in my time at Stellenbosch University was the incident with the residents, Wilgenhof, where they had discovered the 2 secret rooms where they did horrific initiations, and they discovered these crude drawings of what they depicted as male assaults and what they did in the disciplinary committee. And it was really some horrific findings that were discovered in Wilgenhof. And these acts were inhumane and were unjust. What I valued the most in our faculty and within the classroom setup in our program was that the lecturers were not afraid to ask questions about the unjust acts that were happening at the university. The lecturers were inviting of dialogue, and they presented the dialogue. They put it on the table and said, this is what's happening. As theology students, what do you think should be done? Or what is your opinion? What is your view? Let's engage in dialogue. And I absolutely valued that so much, because we could freely discuss some of the things that were not treating us well. We could freely discuss some of the racial incidents, and a few students were also sharing on how they felt unsafe. And I really valued the opportunity to be seen, to be heard, and to have dialogue on these matters. And I really, really value that from our lecturers, and I'm appreciative of that. And so that was really one of the positive things, and I'm grateful to learn how to actually engage in dialogue when it comes to really difficult topics and things that are unjust, and to be able to sit down and actually to have dialogue about that. I learned a lot from that experience. Our classroom setup was also quite interesting. They were quite intentional with how they chose the people in the classroom. Everyone was equal. So we had 2 white people, 2 colored people, and 2 black people. I was one of the black people. And it was so intentional, and it was so, I believe it was really intentional, and I believe it was deliberate. It helped us to feel all equal. No one felt, supreme or inferior, but we all felt equal, and we all felt like we are contributing towards building this program together. And I absolutely love my classmates. We developed quite a really awesome friendship and quite an awesome bond together, which was really, really so amazing. So I really actually value that from the institution, that they were so intentional with our classroom setup in the master's program. Of course, I cannot speak with regards to the first or second or third year, but I'm more focused on the master's program, that it was really, really quite good that they did that. So lastly, would I recommend Stellenbosch University? It is quite difficult to answer this, because I did not start my studies at Stellenbosch from my first year, second year, third year, or even my fourth year doing a postgrad, but I only started from a master's level. It's also difficult because I didn't even stay there as one of the residents, and stay in one of the residents in Stellenbosch University. So it's my opinion is coming from a space where I entered into the master's program. So if you are like me entering into the master's program, I think it is for me a very, very beautiful experience. It changed me, it shaped me, it really was quite powerful for me personally within the theology faculty, within my program. And so I would definitely recommend it, but I don't know for people in their first year, second year, or third year what the experience is. I do know that it is one of the best schools in South Africa, and honestly, the work that they put in is really, really top notch. So if you are looking for good education, and then I think it is a good institution. But if you're coming in to do a master's within this clinical program, it will change your life. It is absolutely amazing. Nonetheless, that was my story, my experience of Stellenbosch University. I hope that for some who want to join the school, that it gave you a bit of perspective, especially within the theology faculty. I hope you have an amazing day.